There's a harsh truth lurking in the shadows of society that many refuse to acknowledge. A truth buried beneath centuries of polished manners, political correctness, and cultural guilt. A truth that Niccolò Machiavelli understood all too well. A truth that power is not maintained by virtue alone. And that kindness, when overused, becomes a weapon turned against you. In the art of leadership, in personal ambition, even in relationships, there comes a moment when kindness fails, when mercy is mistaken for weakness, when silence is interpreted as fear, when patience becomes a breeding ground for betrayal. This is the moment Machiavelli wrote for. This is where his most dangerous idea comes into play, the law of necessary cruelty. But before we begin to interpret his idea in today's terms, we must understand the man behind the message. Born in Florence in 1469, Niccolò Machiavelli was not just a political philosopher. He was a man raised amidst chaos. Florence, during his lifetime, was not a haven of peace. It was a stage for betrayal, manipulation, war, and shifting alliances. Kings and popes moved like chess pieces, and the people were merely pawns, sacrificed in pursuit of power. To survive in such a world, one had to shed the idealism of Plato and embrace the ruthlessness of reality. That is what Machiavelli did. His most famous work, The Prince, was not a book of virtue. It was a guidebook for survival and dominance. And within this text, he delivered one of his most radical assertions. That cruelty, when used wisely and strategically, is not only acceptable, but necessary. Let us now dissect the philosophy, examine the strategy, and then, most importantly, see how it applies to the real world, not just for princes and politicians, but for you, the individual navigating a world that often punishes kindness and rewards manipulation. Machiavelli never said kindness was useless. In fact, he admired those who could blend virtue, strength, with prudenza, wisdom. But he warned, when kindness no longer serves you, it must be replaced, not with blind rage, not with reckless vengeance, but with calculated cruelty. And therein lies the heart of the law of necessary cruelty, the misinterpretation of Machiavelli. Machiavelli's name has become synonymous with evil. Machiavellian is now a word that implies deceit, treachery, and manipulation. But that's not the full picture. To truly understand his philosophy, we must realize this. Machiavelli was not promoting cruelty for cruelty's sake. He was promoting efficiency, order, and power. And sometimes, to secure those things, actions that appear cruel on the surface are the most merciful in the long run. Take this famous example from The Prince. When Cesare Borgia, the Duke of Valentinois, needed to bring order to a rebellious region, he sent a man named Ramiro de Orco to handle it. Ramiro was brutal, executing enemies, using fear to suppress dissent. But once peace was restored, Cesare had Ramiro executed and left his body in the town square. Why? To shock the people, to remove the hatred from himself and place it on Ramiro, to appear just and merciful after the cruelty had achieved its goal. Machiavelli praised this tactic. Why? Because it achieved order, and ultimately, that order spared more lives than endless chaos would have taken. Cruelty, when used wisely and all at once, is preferable to drawn-out punishment. He writes, in taking a state, the new ruler must determine all the injuries he needs to inflict. He must inflict them once and for all, and not have to repeat them every day. In this way, he will be able to win men's confidence in the long run. This is strategic cruelty, not sadism, not pettiness, but cruelty with a goal and a limit. When kindness becomes a liability, now consider your own life. How many times have you given someone multiple chances, only to be stabbed in the back again? How often have you kept the peace, only to have your silence mistaken for submission? How many times have you avoided confrontation, only to watch your respect erode? Kindness is not bad, but when it's your default, when it's extended to those who do not deserve it, it becomes a liability. There is a reason Machiavelli warned rulers not to rely on generosity. He said, a prince who wishes to maintain his rule must learn how not to be good, and to use that knowledge or not according to necessity. Necessity, that's the key. You don't wake up one day and become cruel. You watch, you wait, you act when the time is right. Strategic cruelty in the modern world. Let's move beyond ancient Florence. Let's talk about corporate boardrooms, about relationships, about friendships, about the subtle wars we fight every day, emotional, social, and psychological. The law of necessary cruelty says this: when the situation demands strength, do not offer softness. When your silence enables disrespect, speak with unshakable finality. When manipulation festers, cut it off at the root. When you are betrayed, make an example, not for revenge, but to restore order. Modern society may disguise its cruelty in passive-aggressive behavior, ghosting and silent treatment, but the essence remains. Only those who know when to be firm, when to say no, when to cut ties, and when to enforce consequences, maintain their power. You may not be a prince, but you are the ruler of your own life. And Machiavelli's lesson is this: be feared when necessary. Be cruel when it preserves the greater good. Be ruthless when kindness has failed. Because if you don't enforce your standards, others will write the rules for you. The pitfall of passive morality. Passive morality is one of the great downfalls of modern man. We're told to forgive endlessly, tolerate everything, and seek peace at all costs. But Machiavelli would laugh at that, because peace that is purchased through weakness is temporary. It invites vultures. It attracts parasites. It seduces betrayal. He'd say, you can be moral, but you must also be dangerous, because morality without strength is just wishful thinking, and kindness without boundaries is an invitation for abuse. He understood a fundamental truth. There are some people who will only respect cruelty. There are some situations where mercy destroys more than it saves. And there are some betrayals that demand a final response, not a second chance. The art of the cut. If someone disrespects you once, you confront. If they do it twice, you decide. If they do it 3 times, you cut. This is the art of the cut. You do not scream. You do not beg. You do not explain. You disappear, or you retaliate with calm, calculated force. This is Machiavellian discipline. It is not emotional, it is strategic. And remember, never warn someone more than once. Reputation, power, and the use of fear. Machiavelli believed that a ruler's greatest asset was not love, but reputation. And fear is a more stable foundation for respect and love. Not terror, not tyranny, but reverent fear, the kind that says, this person is not to be trifled with. You must cultivate that same energy. Be kind but firm. Be warm but vigilant. And when the moment comes, unleash precision cruelty. Machiavelli believed that consistency is respected more than charm. If people know you do not tolerate disrespect, they will avoid disrespecting you. Necessary cruelty in relationships. Let's go deeper. In relationships, both romantic and platonic, kindness is expected, but too much kindness without boundaries creates imbalance. One person gives, the other takes. One forgives, the other manipulates. Machiavelli would advise, let your kindness be earned, not expected. And if betrayal comes, make them feel the absence of your warmth like a winter without fire. You do not need to scream. Your absence is cruelty enough. The final truth. When kindness fails, do not panic. That failure is not a reflection of your flaw. It is a signal, a sign that the game has changed. And now you must too. Do not regret being kind. But do not hesitate to become cruel when kindness is no longer respected. Because, in the words of Machiavelli, the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Be both. Use cruelty as a lion uses his claws, not constantly, but decisively, not as a tool of destruction, but a tool of restoration. And above all, never forget this. The world respects not those who are always kind, but those who know when kindness ends and where power begins.